Well, in regards to filling column inches and all of that stuff, Raheem Sterling's been a big help in that in recent days. Were you surprised by all of this? Because I think that I can understand there's a degree of, I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but obviously Man City are a little bit, well, just upset. They've lost a game of football, and it's a big game of football, and it was a very important game of football against Liverpool at the weekend. Where do you think this has come from with Sterling? Because it's a situation that's rumbled on, and we'll kind of pick up on some of the stuff from the fallout from England, I guess, in a moment. But just taking it back to the weekend and beyond, Sterling, I think, has done. I think he's taken gigantic strides forward in the last 18 months, 2 years, or what have you, in terms of building his persona, putting more of himself, the real Raheem Sterling, across. And I think he's, in my experience of him, I think he's a very, I like him. I like him as a person. I think he's a good guy. Good people are allowed to do stupid things, but it seems this whole bust up with Joe Gomez just seems absolutely incredible.
It almost came out. I know there was the flashpoint on the pitch. I mean, let's face it, Gomez wasn't on the pitch that long. What, 10, 15 minutes was he, if that? And there was the flashpoint on the pitch. And then usually if there are running tensions, you usually see it boil over in the tunnel when they're all going off the pitch, and you know something's gone on. But there was that one flashpoint on the pitch which seemed to be calmed down pretty quickly. We've subsequently seen pictures of them hugging each other at the final whistle. So I don't quite know what the process then to go 24 hours later for him to suddenly flare up. And to Joe Gomez of all people, I mean, I tweeted this week that how much of Liverpool got in Man City's heads, that Raheem Sterling, who's from my experience a genuinely decent bloke, can have a go at Joe Gomez, who is arguably one of the nicest people in football. I mean, Joe Gomez will speak to you, not necessarily on the record for an interview, but even when he's not playing, he walks through the mix zone, will say hello, come and shake your hand, say you're all right. He's just such a really nice guy. And for someone to have an issue with someone like Joe Gomez and want to take it further, just seems to me really bizarre, because I can't imagine that Joe Gomez would wind anybody up the wrong way.
And to be fair, that's my similar. I've only spent an hour or two in the company of Sterling, probably cumulatively similar amounts of time, but Gomez over more incidents, and exactly my thoughts exactly on him and his character. It makes me wonder, and I kind of equated this a little bit to, I think you see this in football, where when footballers say things and do things, I often think you can tell what their manager's been saying to them. Sometimes, so if they come out with a line, they've just taken a bollocking in the dressing room, and they'll come out with you can hear words that don't fit how they normally talk, and they'll say these words. When you see Pep Guardiola's reaction to stuff in and around that match, and we know what a meticulous human being he is and how wound up he can get when things seem to get out of his control, it does make me wonder, and this is obviously just pure speculation, but whether Sterling is almost a reflection of what might be happening within Man City's dressing room off the bat, because it does feel as though this result and some of the instances around it, if it was any other game, any other team, you'd just be switching off to that. Whereas because it's Liverpool and because of our matters, it makes me wonder whether there's a longer knock-on reaction of, as you say, Liverpool maybe being in Man City's heads, to use a bit of a
I think so. I mean, we also shouldn't forget that Raheem never enjoys a warm welcome when he comes back to Anfield. I mean, putting it bluntly. And I mean, to be fair to me, he had a decent game on Sunday. I thought he was possibly their best player.
I think that's the best performance across 90 minutes he's put in.
Yeah, so obviously there was a lot of frustration that he'd come back and finally play, had a decent game, but not really finally produced anything at the end of it. And they'd lost. So maybe that frustration was just, it just simmered over. Overnight, and when he saw Gomez the next day, just suddenly thought, But I'd say for him I mean, I think it was quoted as saying he was accusing Gomez of thinking he was the big man. It's like, well, when you know Joe Gomez or speak to Joe Gomez, he's not. I mean, some young footballers you meet are quite brash and quite out there, but he's not one of those. So it just seems to be all tied up in the fact that there was so much built on this game. It was like City was a game they could not lose. It was a must not lose to go. Liverpool were probably thinking, well, we could get away with the draw, and we were quite happy to have a 6-point lead. I think City, it was a must not lose. We must keep at least 6 points in it. So for them to lose, and in the manner they lost, bear in mind, the first 20 minutes, they were probably by far the better side. I mean, Liverpool barely strung any passes together. When they strung passes together, they absolutely ripped City apart. But so whether it was just the whole frustration of that, and I don't know what football's like, but presumably they go home and think about the game and what they've done and what they could have done better and the ramifications, and it just built up in him, and he just thought, well,
it's mad, isn't it? Because I mean, there's talk of it being, because that the Gomez Sterling incident became a little bit of a social media meme off the back of it. The Gomez basically picking Sterling up and moving him out, and you wonder whether that's because that's the kind of thing that Sterling is quite actively engaged on social media, and whether that's just something he's seen and that's been festering on it, which would kind of feed into it. But so it could just be that. But it feels to me like if the camp is calm, I think you're doing work on like, that's gone now, lads. It's gone, it's done. Put it out of your minds. But I wonder whether it's a reaction to maybe that exists in the dressing room after that game. Maybe Pep has gone. It's gone, lads. Don't worry about it. But if that's the case, maybe they've overhyped it in the build-up, and the players are having a hard time saying, because I think it's very difficult for Pep Guardiola to say, all right, lads, don't worry, it doesn't matter. That's not a big... It doesn't matter when you can see his reaction on the touchline. It couldn't matter more.
Yeah, and also I think as well, the fact that they go straight away to an international break, so they're on their own. It's not like they're back with their team and everyone has a chance to go, okay, let's regroup, let's just, as you say, move on, go to the next thing. They all go their separate ways straight after a game, and literally you can see them rushing off after a game saying, I've got to catch a flight, I've got to catch a bus or a car or whatever. And so that they're basically then in their own world and basically alone with their own thoughts. They're not with anybody else they can bounce things off. They can't go home and maybe speak to their family or speak to teammates about it and just basically just put a lid on it. They sort of left to fester with their own thoughts, and maybe that is part of it.
And there's something too, you're walking into it, you're then walking into that England environment, and it's not been reported again. It's just just to kind of put a story around it. It doesn't necessarily take. It could just be you could walk past a member of staff at St George's Park or whatever who goes, "Wait, well, good game at the weekend," and it's a straw that broke the camel's back kind of situation.
I mean, that is the very nature of the way football works. I mean, we talk about the banter in the dressing room. Well, when you get different dressing rooms coming together international, I mean, there's always talk of cliques at international level with the clubs. So there's going to be that. There's bound to be back and forth between players, and you've almost got to say you've got to just shrug it off and go, well, that's it. And I say it's really surprising that someone like Raheem would react that way. It just seems.
And when you see the photos of Gomez coming out in training with like scratches on his face and neck and stuff, and like, because I think it's just again incredible to think that, like, because you said you've gone from, but I can't even. I just love to see footage of it. I'd love to, you know what I mean? Because at the minute we're getting it third and the fourth, we're getting loads of little bits and pieces pieced together. But I think it's crazy. I think the thing that's most sad about it, and it's not shocking, sadly, because I think England fans. I don't have a high opinion of a number of England fans. I'm not going to tar an entire nation with one brush, of course, but I've been in an England away end before, and it's the most embarrassing place I've ever been in my entire life. More embarrassing than being like an 8-year-old kid being in the lingerie section of Next with your mum. You know what I mean? That kind of worse, more embarrassing than that. But like Joe Gomez being booed by England fans in the wake of this is, I mean, what?
At what level? Yeah. I don't understand. I say. They're obviously thinking that he's to blame. Obviously, Sterling is England's best player at the moment, arguably, and so he's missing that game. But to then take that leap and go, well, okay, despite the fact he's admitted blame, it's his responsibility, and Southgate, even his press conference the day after, said, Joe Gomez got no portion, no blame to Joe Gomez whatsoever. Raheem couldn't keep a lid on his emotions, not so for not so for Joe Gomez.
Yeah.
But then the crowd or sections of the crowd take that leap and go, okay, it's Joe Gomez's fault that Raheem Sterling is not playing, so therefore we need to take it out on Joe Gomez. Seems
the situations. I think Roy Keane recounted a story of a fight with Peter Schmeichel on the coverage. If this had been if Joe Gomez had risen to this and they have a full blown fight, then I understand that there's a case for your team Sterling or team Gomez, because that's where everyone just loves to pick sides and things. But there's nothing more that could have been done. Like, you're right. The manager's come out. Sterling himself has come out just after it. He actually had to come out again post-match to say, stop. I've admitted this is all on me. What are you doing, booing Joe Gomez? Again, it's such a shame, because look at a player like Gomez, and you're right. I think he's got a fantastic personality. He's a great character. Or a great strength of character, as opposed to being a great character. He's not Bruce Grobbelaar, but he's just working away on trying to get back into the Liverpool team. He's trying to get into the England team. This incident has happened to him, and as far as a young player, things aren't going his way this season. This time last year he was a mainstay of the Liverpool back line, and this season he's not. And all of a sudden he's being booed for his national team. I personally think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, we all know there's none such one-eyed as football fans, and you only have to see it with just the club divides and how people will absolutely defend one person because he's a player for their team and criticise another player because he's a player for another team. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that's happened. But I mean, I understand the process that they go through, that thinks that it suddenly becomes, we're going to boo Joe Gomez because Raheem Sterling isn't playing, and Raheem Sterling has admitted fault. What is Joe Gomez supposed to do? Yeah. Especially when you look at what Joe Gomez has done for England and the pain he's suffered in England with the injury that kept him out of the Champions League final. On England duty, he made that. So he's not like he's not one of these players who was picked and chosen when he wants to play for England, pulled out with tactical injuries and things like that. He's always gone, done his best, and then that he gets treated like that. It makes you wonder what he thinks about the situation.
Oh, absolutely. I always think back to it, because this is not just from me, a Liverpool perspective. I remember Ashley Cole being booed for England and just thinking, why'd you bother? You know what I mean? You turn up to do this. You're putting in your all for something. I've never understood the England fan mentality at times, but hopefully it's something that Gomez can obviously put behind him, because it's just he's not the kind of player, and it's kind of stuff what you're alluding to, who is looking for the spotlight. I think Sterling does to some extent, and I think that's actually a good thing, because I think he uses his public persona. He's starting to channel that. But
he's grown into that, because obviously, I mean, he's a little bit older than Gomez, but when he started off, he thrust into the limelight as a Liverpool player and didn't really want to be in that limelight. I mean, when we spoke to him very infrequently. Quietly spoken, didn't big up his part. Obviously, since he's got older, and since that move to City, he's gone up a few more levels in terms of the focus on him. I think he's almost had to take on board this. I've got to have a bigger personal persona. I've got to seem to be doing something. I've got a chance to make something of this. I mean,
which is commendable.
You look, the tickets for the he gave to the kids for the FA Cup final. He bought for the kids for his old school, and stuff like that. And we can't argue with that. And I say, from my limited experience with me, he is a thoroughly decent guy. I mean, he remembers when I went back to City after he'd left Liverpool, and he walks past and remembers you, and he could quite easily ignore you and go, but he comes and says hello and says, "You all right?" So we have a chat. But he's moved on since then, and he's become this much bigger star, and everyone wants a piece of him, and he's almost become this trailblazer for the fight against racism and things. And it's all, you wonder whether it's because of the treatment he's had, that he's almost had to think, well, I've got to get bigger, I've got to rise above this and seem to be something better, and who knows whether he's actually comfortable in that role or not.
Yeah,
but he thinks that he's assumed it because maybe he thinks he has to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's one of. I think he deserves to be commended for the work he's done, but he also shouldn't be forgotten. I always say about footballers, and look, we're very tribal, of course. You know, it's what football is. It's pseudo religious at times. People love, particularly young. I think the younger you are, you love a good, like, you know, I'm this side and you're that side. It's football. You know, we do it from games consoles to bands and everything in between. I hope, it shouldn't undo the other good things. You know, because you do something, you make a stupid decision in a moment. I hope it doesn't undo any of the good work he's doing. And again, from a Gomez perspective, hopefully it's just something that, you know, the news cycle will move on. Everyone will forget, and he'll get to get on with his football.